And we're live. Welcome to Diaspora Food Stories. I'm your guest host, Lisa Marie Zapata, and I would like to welcome Liseth Martinez. Welcome to Diaspora Food Stories.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, you're very welcome. So I would love to dive right in. Please tell us about yourself, Lisette, and your very, very special family business out of Colombia.
Okay, Lisa. So I am Liseth Maria Martinez Cuesta. I am originally from Colombia, a town called Choco, Quito to be more precise. That's in the Pacific coast of Colombia, borders with Panama. So I pretty much studied business as a bachelor degree, and then I did a master degree too in advertising, which led me to look into what my father was doing during my whole life, and try to get a bit of understanding of the business he was trying to build with the communities in the Pacific coast where I was born. So I decided to jump in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. I flew back home. I wasn't living in Colombia at that time. I was overseas in Australia. But I decided to go home and look into what he was doing there. So he was pretty much like try to do was transforming the sugar cane into molasses and alcohol drinks, pretty much. So I kind of like decided to get an understanding of all the production process, the work with communities, and I built up, or I took over him, and I kind of like redesign the business and create a brand called Viche Canao.
And what is Viche Canao? Can you enlighten me and the audience about what the spirit is, how it's made, where it's made? Tell us.
Of course, Lisa. So pretty much let's start with Viche as a alcohol drink, let's say that. So Viche is pretty much a drink made from sugar cane. So we get the sugar cane, we is made out of the juice of sugar cane. That juice is fermented and distilled, and it gives you like a fruity, citric, and a smoky spirit drink to say. And pretty much it has like 400 years of ancestral tradition and cultural tradition, because in Colombia particularly that comes all the way from Africa. So in the past, biche was used only for medical purpose, like we used to do, or we are still doing that actually in the communities. Like we kind of like mix it with herbs, like traditional herbs and spices, to build it up different like cure bottles, like to actually for the pregnancy women when they are in labor, and to control the pain, for us to control the period pain, um, to get like the flu out of your body. So biche was used only for medical purpose, but recently, let's say around 4 5 years, we also realized that because it's an organic drink come from made only from sugar cane, that also was good to be mixed with different fruit, and like in the cocktails were like it was like a really good spirit to be mixed. So we realized that we have a market there, and we start to approach that market with Viche Canao. So Viche Canao or Canao is our particular brand, our family brand, and that is pretty much, Canao comes from the word canoa and caña. Caña is pretty much sugar cane, and so in canoa is the like a little transportation a tool that we use to bring the caña, the sugar cane from the other, like from the river. So that's pretty much what it's called like that. So that's Viche Canao. It's a family business in the Pacific coast in Colombia that my father was kind of like trying to build it up for 30 years. but because he didn't have the business skills, so I jumped in, and now we have like the drink in most of the restaurants in Colombia.
Wow. I find it very interesting that its original purpose is medicinal.
Yeah, exactly.
And um, I was reading about herbalism and also the origins of gynecology and obstet and particularly childbirth, and how what the West considers the godfather of gynecology actually traveled to Africa to learn about C-section and birthing, because their success rate rivaled all of the world's.
Mhm.
And um, it's very interesting that the Viche tradition has survived 400 years. Can you tell us a little bit more about that history? How it was preserved so beautifully?
Yeah, I guess a particular advantage was the location or the territories, the community where beach was produced or preserved. Like we are talking about like small, really small towns in the Pacific coast. So those communities have like really hard. They are hard to access. So because there is no much civilization on that territories, I guess that really contribute for them to preserve and live around those traditional cultures. So pretty much like that was the only way they have, even let's say the disadvantage of not having a health system infrastructure. So the way they have to actually cure or kind of like tackle health issues was from these herbalizations or the mix with herbs and the still the dream, right? So but I say the lack of government support, lack of road and health system infrastructure give Viche the only to be the only tool that they have to cure and to kind of like try to tackle the problem of they didn't have a health system infrastructure. But pretty much it's because the access to these communities. They are really in a small towns in Colombia, so the access is really tough, and they stick to the traditional culture and the ancestralities because, as you know, we as a Black community believe we have a strong relationship with our ancestors, right? And then we keep that relationship, and we try to kind of like pass it generation through generation.
Wow. So that isolation and separation almost gave you a freedom
Exactly.
to retain
Yeah. And Lisa, another
and
thing,
innovate.
sorry. Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. And another thing I think is because Viche, as an alcoholic drink, was seen by the government as something illegal.
mm,
So because this was something illegal, like communities tried to keep it in the communities in the town. We weren't really kind of like trying to get it into the main cities. So that was another reason why I do believe like in the past it was actually like keep us like try like allow us to keep at that in protection.
wow. And when was the illegality lifted?
It was 2021. So in 2018, someone from the Congress in Colombia tried to register Viche as like the intellectual property of Viche. So smart, right? So a white for. So these guys, and this can be said because we all know the story. So this guy tried to register all those 400 years of ancestral tradition under his own like brand, like name, right? So we all, as a Black people in Colombia, get together with lawyers and we replicate that one. So we took that one down, but then that allowed us to realize that we were in the illegality in the production process, and then that we were really not covered on the intellectual property of our knowledge. So we start a legislation So we go in 2000. So this started in 2018. In 2021, Colombian government approved the law. So the 21(5)(a) law was created, which pretty much say Viche was legal to commercialize. Viche was can be only produced in the communities of the Pacific Coast, the states Chocó, Valle del Cauca, Cauca, and Nariño by Black people in Colombia. So in 2021 was when officially Viche could like start being commercialized without being persecuted.
Wow. So it's very recent.
It's really recently, and we are still like this is not something that is fully in action. We are still with a lot work to do. So because let's say from that we also need to get some permits, and some permits to if we want to export, we also get to get registration for that, and there is no clarity of how that's gonna be done yet. So we are still a lot to it's still a lot of work to do there.
Um, since Viche is such it's a product that it's tied to the land, as well as the people. Are you guys seeking international recognition, similar to how France has champagne and Mexico has tequila? Are you seeking that international recognition?
So pretty much what we wanna get is what you just mentioned, and it's like beaches start becoming really known and popular in the moment that people realize that it's an authentic traditional dream make in one of the most important communities in Colombia, but then it wasn't having or getting the enough or the enough recognition by locals. But then we realized that the production process is the same as the cachaça in Brazil, or the same as tequila or mezcal in Mexico. So the pisco in Peru and Chile. So yes, definitely what we want is for people to know that Colombia has an authentic, culturally and ancestral drink that is organic if you produce it in the proper way. And that is kind of like it should be our authentic traditional drink to sell to the world.
Wow. And getting back to tradition, I would love to hear a little bit about growing up as the daughter of a producer of Viche. What was it like in your home? What was the morning breakfast, the views outside your window? Tell us a little bit about that tradition.
Of course. So as I mentioned, my father, Osvaldo Martinez, he started with the transformation of the sugar cane as a whole. He started first with the melazas. That was what he wanna focus on first, to do the melazas so that we can, instead of using honey, we use that one that comes from or that is organic from the sugar cane. But then because the liquor industry that was in Choco, he like got into bankruptcy. So all the farmers were left without job and like lost. So he decided to organize everyone and start distilling for themselves. And that's when Biche got into our family. And anyone who has interviewed me or asked me about the process know what I am gonna say. And it's at first I was like really against that. All he has 7 kids, Charles. And so we all were against he producing Bishe because we kind of like we were afraid of the persecution that the distillation has. And then we were really afraid that he was getting into jail or something like that. But then going to the Boca de Ame where he was producing was really like a breeze in our life because it's by the river. So we kind of like for us was like a day trip to the communities and to the river, and it was kind of like cool to get there and play with the kids in the land, like it's kind of like really raw and without shoes or with the yeah, it was kind of like really adventurous. But in the household it was a little bit of controversy, because we were afraid. We were always afraid that he was getting into trouble, that he was being persecuted by the police, and that some days they are gonna call us to say like, okay, your dad is in jail. But then it wasn't like that. It was more like we wanted to protect him. So it was this both sides of where we were afraid, but at the same time it was really joyful to, because our family comes from small towns, even though we were in the capital in Quibdó. So my mom family and my dad business, they all are from the small communities along the side of the river.
Of the
So
river.
having like fish, like fried fish, rice straight from the water, or plantains, and yeah, getting to, actually we were fishing from time to time when we were like five, when I was five. So it's kind of like is bringing one of my best like memories, childhood memories, when I was able to go to communities. So yeah.
Wow. So, how was, tell me about when you guys prepared to go to the river. What was that like? Was it a
Can you say
weekend
that again,
thing?
please?
Tell us about how the preparation was to go to the river. Was it a weekend thing? Was it a Monday morning that, or how did you organize yourselves?
That was pretty much like when I was little. Let's say I'm telling you, even more 1 month after I was born, until I was five, like every holidays, we was like prepared to go there. We couldn't wait. And that morning, like it has to be at that time, like it was first things in the morning, 6 a.m. We had to be by the pool, by the pier, to get into the transport and to get there. And so it was literally a June, like holidays in June and holiday period in December for Christmas season. Our grandparents used to live there with our aunties and with everyone. So my father and my mom, they live in the city, but everyone else was there. So me and my brother, even though sometimes my mom couldn't make it, so they kind of like recommend us with someone, and we get there. But it was literally 5 a.m. in the morning. We wake up, we were all excited, like, yes, we couldn't wait that moment to get there. I really remember our friend at that time were there. Everyone we knew, even though we only spent a month or 3 weeks there, everyone I remember at that time on my life was there, not here in Quito. It was in the community. So that's where I learned to ride a bike, to fish, to swim. So it was really, really exciting. And as I say, it was only until when I was five, because after that I couldn't go anymore due to insecurity reasons.
Oh, wow. So it was a very formative part of your it was, your earliest memory,
Yeah,
being
definitely.
by the river. Can you tell me a little bit about the music, the food? What was it about the river that was so special that at 5 o'clock in the morning, uh, five, uh, five and unders were ready?
Yeah. So it was pretty much, I don't know, but Quito is really well known, or the whole Pacific coast in Colombia is really well known for the rivers. They are kind of that are along the side. So we are really a region that is known by rivers and oceans. So we have a lot of water in our culture. So it's part of who we are and how we are recognized in the country, the biodiversity, the nature, the water. And so for us, it's something that I guess, even though in the capital, Quito, we have the Atrato River. So we born and we see it so extend, so huge, so big. But when you go to small towns, you see that there are little places where you can actually swim or get into it, or like you get to swim there. We don't have pools, we have the river. So that's something that probably kind of like we grow up with. The music is particular. um, even no one in Colombia kind of like get an idea of the Chocó music or this part of the Pacific Coast music. But we have something called chirimia, which is with instruments like instruments like a saxophone or like a small little like drums. And so it's kind of like really Afrobeat could be something quite similar, but in the way that we use more instruments to say. And the food was fish, plantains, that was all. And fruit, of course, fruit.
My mom is from a river town in the Dominican Republic, and I used to love going back and hanging out with my cousins at the river. But I was
Exactly.
so afraid. I went a little bit older. They were going since birth. But me, I knew how to swim in still waters, not
It's
river
different,
waters.
right?
Oh, but the river is being connected to the water. It's a very beautiful experience.
It is. The
Um, and so you said the music is similar to Afrobeats, but with more instrumentation.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only, when I say similar, because they are completely different, it's because the beat, like the beat that is involved on it. But yeah, Shrimia is something that is really fast and rhythm. So it's really a fast rhythm though, and it's really instrumental. It's completely instrumental,
And
no voice on that. It's just with instruments.
nice. I love to dance. I'm a
Yeah,
salsa
you
dancer,
will love it.
and music from Colombia is known for their speed.
It is, especially in that size of Colombia, in that
Yeah.
area. So it's really, really kind of like you move your body, even though
You
if you
move
don't
your
wanna.
well, you have to move to the beat. There's no way other around it. Um, so thank you for sharing that about your river experience. Um, so you said that sort of ended around when you were 5 years old. Is that when you started going to school and started
Exactly.
preparing professionally, taking your steps into that business route that you took it in?
Yeah, exactly. So when I was 5, then I went into school. So unfortunately at that time in Colombia, we start facing a really it's like a strong era with the security, the guerrillas and everything. So people couldn't, like at that time we stopped being able to go to a small towns so safely, or to travel along the river was kind of like really risky. So that's why we stopped going to our grandma's house and our parents' house. And then they kind of like had to emigrate to Quito. They had to leave. So everyone's moved to Quito. And so we didn't really have family in those small towns anymore. And that's when I also told you that that's why we were kind of like afraid of my dad doing that, because he was the only one traveling back and forward to the community. So yeah, that's the reason why we stopped going there, was because of that, because that tough period that Colombia jumped into due to the guerrillas and all of those groups. And then I start my studies, and yeah, I kind of like focus on other things. And to be honest, at that point I wasn't really looking into anything with the communities. I was barely like supporting my father with some inputs and so on, but not much.
Wow. That's an incredible. I could not imagine the fear because um being being that you're so connected to the river, to be cut off is something that's so essential to life and happiness,
Yeah.
to everything that your community is about. That's a real tragedy to be cut off from that. um in that period, what what kept you connected?
So I moved even out of Choco. I moved to Medellin to do my bachelor degree. But then I think, as I say, for us was really important to every holidays, every uni break to go back home. So we are still being really attached to Quibdó, to Chocó. Quibdó is the capital of Chocó. So we were really at where our parents were, our friends from high school. So even though when we were to the university, we kind of like, we tried to go there. When I was at a school, I really tried to, or high school, I really tried to join two different groups. So I play basketball professionally and music. I can like play instruments. So that built my adolescent life was kind of like attached me to certain things in the region. So I was looking for every holidays or uni break to go back home. So I think we are really attached to our lands, to our territories, to our communities. Even though I stopped going to the small ones, I consider myself nowadays, I still really attached to Choco itself as a whole. So our traditions, the way we eat, what we eat, our food, our music, our people, even though we have our issues, we kind of like, we feel like home. That's home for me. So, and it's something I think is not gonna change.